welcome to our webinar giving you some details on what the capabilities of the Velogic system are. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the history behind Velogic and how the company came about. If you have any questions up here in the top, you can see there's a Q&A button, so feel free to ask questions along the way. So if you have questions, I'm happy to answer those. From a technology perspective, the way that the system works is we use a series of 3D, what are called time-of-flight cameras. These time-of-flight cameras give us some unique capabilities in terms of the ability to be able to see how technology, or to see how 3D and high quality video can interact together. So before we get into that, we're just going to talk a little bit about the company and how we got to this point, and then we'll get into the software and I'll show you how it works. So first things first, a little bit about Velogic. So, you know, at the end of the day, if you're a professional bike fitter, everything comes down to, you know, what's the value proposition? And, you know, if you're interested in saving time and improving efficiency in your fitting process, Velogic can help you do that. The biggest, most unique feature the software has is that we have dual synchronized bilateral full body capture. What that means is we have two very special cameras that have custom software that we've installed into the firmware of the camera itself that allow us to synchronize the left and right side of the body. And as you can see in the picture here, what we do is we overlay the 3D data over 2D data. And that gives you a very unique ability to see what's going on with an athlete. One of the drawbacks of traditional 3D is that you miss all the nuances of people's posture. So you don't get to see, you know, one shoulder's high, one shoulder's low. Yes, that'll turn up to some degree in the kinematics or in the joint angles, but you don't really get to see that in the same level of detail. We can connect up to 4 cameras synchronized, which means that, you know, if you're in a situation where you have enough space for 4 cameras, you don't ever have to, you know, rotate the person, or you don't have to do anything with changing the perspective of the rider to the camera. So the integration between 2D and 3D is seamless. Part of the reason it's seamless is the camera itself contains multiple cameras all synchronized in a single housing, which we'll show you in a little bit. So it's the integration of the two technologies is pretty phenomenal. In addition to that, just making sure nobody's in the lobby. In addition to that, we have bike documentation and measurements built into the system. So when you're done with the fit, we can use a wand to document the position. That obviously, you know, will appear into the reports. And then those bike documentation metrics that you put in, there's a database in the system that you can hit search on those XY coordinates instantaneously. So there's 18,000 bikes in our database, which allows you to immediately see solutions for, you know, whatever bike position you've come up with. Once you complete the biomechanical analysis, you can get an instant bike dimension report, also a biomechanics report, and then there's a report you can also have for bike recommendations. What this offers for you and your clients is it's a more precise, personalized fit, and all of those interactions happen in a single interface. So all these tools are in the same, you know, in the same program. So what's nice about this is that, you know, this is the very latest and greatest in 3D. We're leveraging the power of video and all the postures and all the other things you can see. And, you know, that definitely, you know, raises the profile of how clients perceive what's going on. In our current market and environment globally, people expect technology to be part of the fit process, and this helps deliver that. In addition to that, we also have an ANT+ integration, which means power and heart rate are integrated into the process. So any ANT+ signal can be synchronized. So you're getting body angles, or sorry, joint angles, you're getting joint movements in all three planes, and you're getting any sort of N+ data that you want to incorporate at the same time. Okay, so let's keep moving on. So a little bit about the company itself. So Cyclogic began in cycling biomechanics research in 1993 when I was working with Trinity College in Dublin. We did some of the first studies on C-tube angle on oxygen uptake. We did the first study where we actually looked at the impact of C-tube angle on run performance, and that kind of really got me interested in science and technology, and hey, we can actually bring science to bike fitting. I worked with Intel between 1994 and 2000, where I learned a lot about technology, and I've got to leverage a lot of that knowledge into this software and other products that we offer in the bike fitting world. Ran Serata's, when I came to the States initially, I attended Serata's Advanced Fit School. In 2001, we started doing our first video-based motion analysis. In 2003, we got involved with orthotics manufacture and footbeds. In 2008, I got a chance to run Serata's education and model curriculum and bring it up to speed at the time. In 2010, I got brought back here to Arizona, where I'm currently based, to build cycling-specific wind tunnels. So I got to learn a lot about aerodynamics and the science of aerodynamics. And then in 2012, we founded Cyclogic. In the period that we've been here with Cyclogic, we've educated over 1,000 retailers. I ran Trek Precision Fits program, worked with Lidl, Trek, and all the different iterations of that team over an 8-year period. And in 2022, we got involved with Velogic. Velogic itself, Darren Brunning, our founder, did his Bachelor of Technology in Computer Systems Engineering in 95, had various roles within Anderson Consulting and agricultural software, and basically in 2014 was brought into the mix. So 10 years ago, started working with time-of-flight cameras, started working with how to integrate these type of fit technologies, became a co-owner up until 2020. Then we got involved in 2022 and started to steer the direction of how the product was going. The biggest change we've made since taking over is a complete revision of the UI UX, or the software itself, and then the integration of these new synchronizable 3D cameras. So at this point, I'm going to skip back to the software, and we'll chat a little bit more about what the group is potentially interested in. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to switch over to the software. So a couple of things about the software itself. So it's PC-based software, and there is no Mac solution at this point in time. The specifications from a computer perspective are relatively high because it does process a lot of information. So we have specifications for the exact type of computer. If you have a computer that isn't, an Intel-based processor of at least 13th generation processor with a specific graphics driver, the software doesn't work, or the software won't work in a multi-camera environment, and we can chat a little bit more about that at the end. So if I launch the software here on this computer, it'll open up Velogic Studio. The authorization for the software is online. It can run offline if you happen to be in a situation where you don't have internet access. So it will run for up to 4 days. It will run for up to 4 days offline. And then when the software launches, it immediately searches for cameras. And what's nice about it is that you can change the perspective of the camera. You can move around the area of interest. And then once that camera is kind of set up and ready to run, you're ready to get into analysis mode. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up our directory of fits, and then I'm going to open up a fit session. So this is opening up a previous fit session. We can see here on our bottom viewer here, we have each capture is in here, and when you see a picture of a bike, that means we did a bike documentation. So if we go into the software itself and hit lock, now it'll lock into that particular file. On the right hand side here, you can see this is the analytics panel. So you can see all of the different parameters on here. this is completely configurable. So if you want to rename parameters, if you want to do anything specific, these can be all edited. They can be included, they can be not included, they can call whatever you want to call them. If you want to have, you know, in your own language, you want to have them appear a certain way, you can do all of that. And similarly, all of the reports are configurable also. So very powerful in terms of what ends up on the screen and so on and so forth. Because I went into edit mode, I'm just going to restart the software. So that's the kind of basics of the interface itself. So once the product is launched, once you select a client or begin a new analysis, oh, we got a question here from Tommy. Let me see. Tommy, do you have a question? You've raised your hand. Do you want to go into the Q&A section here and ask the question? All right, I'll move on till I see something from Tommy with what the question is, or you can unmute yourself and speak if you want to. Okay, so let me get back into the software itself. Let me get into share mode and we'll put it on the screen. Okay, so if somebody could just tell me that you can see my screen, that'd be great, because I have a sneaking suspicion that I didn't share that with you. All right, so I'm going to go into a file. Once I open up a fit session, then I'm able to see what's going on with an individual. So just wanted to check, can everybody see my screen right now? Can somebody go into the Q&A window just to make sure that you can see my screen? Anyone? New posts. There we go. Yes, can see. Okay, thank you, Ray. Thank you, everybody. Beautiful. All right. The Q&A window isn't refreshing very quickly. My apologies. My apologies that was slow. Okay, so let's get back into the software. So I'll launch the software again, just so you can see that process. So launching the software, we'll select a client. Once we've selected a client, then we're able to go in. You can see here all the different clients that we have here in the system, and you can see, you know, you can select whatever client you want to select. So I'm going to select let's select a triathlete just to make it more interesting. All right. So once a client is selected, you get to see previews of all the different fits you've done with them. You can see each of the analyses are in here. So you can see here's one session with the athlete, here's another session with the athlete, and then as we move down through, you can see various iterations of how things look. Once we lock on a video file, what that begins to do for us is it'll now show us all the stats for that particular athlete. The default view is just a video view. So you can see here straight away, we can see it's denoted as here's your left and right side. We're in raw mode, which means it's just playing the video at 30 frames per second. However, once we go into a parameter, for this particular parameter, it's knee angle min, we're able to see immediately what the minimum knee angle is left and right side. Let me let somebody else in. Okay. So once we have our left and our right side parameters, the things you see on the screen are obviously a ton of information. The first one, and the obvious one, is this panel here is the knee tracking. The green pathway is the pathway of the knee during the power phase. The blue pathway is the tracking path of the knee during the recovery phase. There are some metrics here which we'll get to now in a second that'll give us an idea as to, you know, what those fit metrics are like. Just want to make sure there's no questions. Okay, we're good on questions. All right. So once the Once the parameter is selected on the right hand side, we can move down through kind of what the analysis is. As you'll see on here, we're using 8 markers. So we're using 3 markers to digitize the foot. We're using whatever knee marker you want to use. We use lateral femoral epicondyle. We use the center of the greater trochanter for the hip. We don't use the acromion for a shoulder marker because the acromion notoriously shifts forward. So we use more like the midline of the joint, and then elbow and wrist are pretty obvious. As we go down through the analysis, once we select on knee angle max, we can see, what the knee angle max is on the left side and the right side, what the minimum is, what the maximum is. If we want to look at the ankling range, we can see the ankling range between the left and the right side. We can see, this is a view we created so as we're able to get in and really look at pedaling mechanics. So we can have both sides come to the top of the pedal stroke, and then we can cycle through the pedal stroke and see what the ankling mechanics are. And in this case here, professional triathlete, we can see there's quite a difference in ankling mechanics. So on the right-hand side here, we can see the heel is dropping much more than the heel is dropping on his left-hand side. So you're able to delve into the subtleties of the pedal stroke. You can move it to different places in the pedal stroke and see exactly how the parameter that's selected on the right-hand side is performing. Now, a couple of points about this. You'll notice up here in the playhead, there's a series of dots. What we've chosen to do with the software to give you more in-depth data about what's happening is each dot up here is where the data point was found in the pedal stroke. So because we're tracking the foot and we can see where the foot is in the pedal stroke, we're able to assign every data point to where it was captured. So if you're seeing something that you don't love in terms of the pedaling mechanics, you can go to that point in here, and every point captured in that 15-second capture is displayed on here. So if you want to zoom in and really figure out what's going on with pedaling mechanics, it allows you to do that in a quite sophisticated way. For those of you who are interested in hip angle min, you can see that at the top of the pedal stroke here, this shaded area is what we're seeing for the particular parameter we're looking at the moment. Obviously, max hip angle is going to be at the bottom of the pedal stroke. We've got a shoulder angle here. We've got an elbow angle, torso angle, forearm angle. Now we get into some of the more interesting metrics. So we see our 2 knee tracking panels here. We've got, the right side and the left side. And if, like me, you prefer to see the left side and the left and the right side and the right, you can just drag these and switch them to whatever way you want it to be. So now my left leg is on the left side and my right leg is on the right side. Now this is where some of the 3D metrics come into play. So this is showing that on the left side, the knee is moving 43 millimeters side to side, and the right side, it's moving 37 millimeters. This is a metric that takes the most medial point of the knee tracking, the most lateral point in the knee tracking, and plots an angle between those 2 points. This is looking at hip vertical travel. So how much is that hip shifting throughout the pedal stroke? Just looking at the horizontal travel. This is a very useful one for determining, does a rider have adequate float? So this is showing how the ankle rotates around the pedal axis. So you're able to see it's 8 degrees on the right side, 7 degrees on the left side. For time trialists and for road cyclists, similarly, being able to see how much the shoulders are moving side to side can sometimes be an indication you've got the elbows too narrow or those kind of parameters. And then there's some nice alignment ones here. So obviously we're interested in, to some degree, where the knee joint is relative to the pedal axle. So you're able to get in there and look at that. And you can see, what the relationship between the knee joint and the center of the pedal axle is, if that's a parameter that interests you. On the performance side, you can see it also tracks the cadence. So we had a cadence of 90 on average throughout this analysis. So it gives you a lot of information and a lot of data about what's going on with the athlete. Now, when you're doing more advanced analytics and you really want to see, what's changed between 2 positions, the comparison tools can be pretty powerful. So for that, I'm going to move to a different session that we did. So I'm going to lock in a different clip or different 2 clips and then compare those 2 things. So looking at this superficially, you might think, okay, there's not much of a difference between these 2 clips. But if you notice here at the base bar, you can see on this left-hand side, we can see that this base bar juts forward less than on this side. The base bar juts much further forward. So that's comparing right side to right side, and here we have left side to left side. So let's look at an interesting tool that we have that allows us to look at this in a little bit more detail. So first set of tools that we can use is the overlay function. So here you can see the left and the right are kind of overlaid over each other. Crossfade, this is going to create a video of the two fits kind of morphing into each other. Super powerful. And then the most kind of processor intensive one. And this is kind of cool because you can see also the knee tracking changes as you've shifted position, as does, the ankling position. So you get to see the subtleties of all the different kind of parameters. And depending on what parameter you had selected when you started this, that's kind of what you see on the screen. And then the final effect that I wanted to show you is the morph effect. So this one can be saved as a video. Well, they can all be saved as videos, but you can, oh, there we go. This one can be saved as a video and exported. So if we hit save here, that can be exported or saved, and that can be sent to the individuals. So it gives you some pretty powerful tools around, what it is you can. How you can see what's going on. Let's see what's going on here. Somebody asking a question. Okay. All right, so that's the basic kind of, what the software can do. Anybody have any questions at this point, or anybody have anything that they'd like to ask? I've got the Q&A open. Everybody can see. All right, let me move on to some other features. And if anybody has questions, like I say, don't hesitate to ask. All right, let's go back into the software again, and we can chat a little bit more about some of the features. Okay, so a lot of people, are curious about, well, what kind of, other functions do we have available within the software itself? What other kind of things can we do? So if we wanted to measure the bike, there are a couple of different options. So if we were going to use the wand to document a bike, we can do that through the software itself. So if I was going to go in, and I'll turn this camera live. So here's a side cycle we have here. It'll allow me to go in and calibrate the axis of the bike to the side cycle. So literally we'll use a wand. I'm going to go and step live into the camera so you can see that. And I'll just show you one of these points. So the first one it's asking me for is a stem bolt. If I wanted to go in and do that, I would go in and use the wand in order to get that stem bolt. This camera, let me just move the position up a little bit so it'll capture that. So if we were capturing that point, just to illustrate this, the camera can go in and capture that point. So you run through the bike, capture all the points, and then there's a function to document it as well. So each point on the bike, once it's documented, then you're able to document the rest of the position on the bike. Once that's documented, it creates a sheet here with all the XY coordinates and all that data in here, and that allows you to document the bike itself. So we'll come out of this file just for a second, and I'm going to show you some reports that we've created in a different for a different athlete. So let me close this down for a second. I'm going to check in with you guys too and make sure I haven't missed any questions. Okay, no questions in here. Brilliant. Okay, I'm just going to reboot this or reopen it again and show you a different file. So let's talk about reports and some of the other features that we have here. So we're going to open a different session. So let's open this one here. So here we have a bike. So if I lock this in place and I just go into review the bike measurements, here's one that's documented right now. What's cool about this is that if I want to go into a frame search from here, or if I want to go into a handlebar XY search, this will open up the web tools, and then we're able to do a search pretty quickly. So it's pulled the bar XYs, it's got a saddle height in here, and it'll immediately allow us to go in and do some searches. So you can see here it's searching 30, 40,000. It'll search. So it's searching 1,000 bikes, and it's kind of narrowed down the bikes based on standover height and other things. So it's not going to search for bikes that we don't see. So it's looked at 200,000 or so. It's going to pass 200,000 combinations of permutations. So essentially, what it's doing is it's looking at all the handlebar combinations that work, and what it's done is it's produced a report for each of the bikes that work from a fit perspective. So you get a picture of the bike. You can, delineate or change this by years, and then you can decide whether you want to include this in a report or not. And then if you wanted to click on the bike itself, there's your Aspero, there's all your geometries, and it allows you to go back and forth and kind of see different data related to the fit that you've done. What's fantastic about this is once you've documented the bike and verified you're happy with the measurements, you can go straight in and then, come up with bike solutions. And then in terms of you setting this up, you can set it up that in this case, there's 3 brands selected. They happen to be 3 brands that we sell. You can turn on brands, turn off brands. There's obviously a lot of brands in the database, a lot, especially if you deal with European and Asian companies. There's a lot of different brands of bikes already in the mix here. So once you have that fit documented, it goes straight into the database, and you're able to do massive searches. As you saw here, this was 967 bikes and over 300,000 combinations and permutations to see whether these bikes would work or not. So again, it's that system integration where everything's in here. If there are bikes that we wanted to include or exclude, you can go in and manually include them or exclude them. You can add other brands in. You can do whatever it is you want in terms of being able to analyze things. You can do searches by stack and reach and other common things that you would do to find bikes. So it allows you to do some pretty powerful analysis of that process. In terms of reports, let's show you kind of some of the simplicity around reports. When we get into report mode, this allows you to annotate and make notes here. So you're able to see, you're able to document what you said, what you did in the fit. Prior to the fit session, these were the symptoms, these were the things we analyzed and found, this is what we did to address it, and these are the additional things. Once you hit generate report, it generates a report as you'd expect. It shows you all your notes that you've made. There's your bike documentation. Here's all of your pre and post, and here's your biomechanics report. And if you had bike suggested and other things, you can get your bike recommendations as well. So just to summarize, it allows us to take 2D and 3D, blend them together, do the analysis, very comprehensive analytics panel. It has heuristics and algorithms set up to work well with mountain bikes, road bikes, TT bikes, obviously gravel and all those variants work excellent also. So it gives you the capabilities to analyze whatever you want and then to come up with solutions based on, the type of bikes you're interested in finding for the person. We do have a resource that is constantly working to update bikes. So let's say there's a brand on here that you don't offer. That brand can be added absolutely no problem whatsoever. So you're able to have other brands in here as you see fit. Okay, not about your system, just a question from a shade tree fitter. Is it typical during the power stroke that the knee is proximal to the bike and is distal in the recovery scope? Yeah. So Ray, that's a really good question. In a study done, I believe in 2005, what they found is that 70% of cyclists have a lateral knee excursion, or the knee moves out in the recovery phase of the pedal stroke. So depending on the workload, when you're at the top of the pedal stroke and you're pushing on the pedals, that knee will tend to move from that outer position at the top of the pedal stroke towards the midline of the pedal. And then as you go into recovery phase, so from the bottom of the pedal stroke to the top of the pedal stroke, that knee will tend to move. That knee will tend to move outwards. Okay. Any other shade tree or non-shade tree questions? Okay, so people ask all the time, well, what does this look like set up in a studio? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to navigate to our website to kind of show you kind of two final aspects of what's important about the software itself. So our website is velogicfit.com. And in the website, there's something that I want to show you first on kind of what this all looks like set up in a studio. So can somebody verify that we're just seeing the camera on the screen? Just want to make sure that the screen sharing is working. Let's go to share. And let's go to window. And let's go to this one. Okay. Alrighty. So let's have a look at this. So let's talk a little bit about the camera first. So the camera is from a company called Orbec that are kind of strategic partners with us. So here we have the fusion of actually kind of four different technologies. We have a laser emitter that bounces light off the reflective markers that are on the athlete. We have a video camera that is then synchronized with the 3D data coming back from the camera itself. So very sophisticated system. What's also cool about the system is, some of the power that's inside of it. Most people are familiar with NVIDIA, especially anybody that's in the gaming world, but this GPU allows us to do a lot of processing on the board itself. So there's a lot of proprietary treatment of the data that we do on the camera itself, and then that's shared back to the computer in a format that we're able to sync up to 4 cameras simultaneously. So with that NVIDIA GPU, we get a lot of power that allows us to do things we wouldn't ordinarily be able to do. So this is in the studio that I'm in now. Here's the camera set up. You can kind of see it moving live. Here we have somebody pedaling. Here we are, size cycle set up in the studio that we're in now. These were some smaller reflective markers we were testing, that don't work as well as the ones that we currently use. But you can see rider pedaling, you can see a lot of different data and information about what's going on with the athlete, and you can kind of see it set up in the studio here itself. This is one of the views that you can see. You can see every single data point as you go through, and you'll notice in our studio we have it set up that we have pressure mapping and the video in 3D set up side by side. So what we tend to do as our process is, once we've made a change or intervention on the bike, person will come down off the bike, we'll sit side by side. You can see the chairs we have here. We'll sit side by side and take the customer through, hey, this is what we just saw, these are the changes we made, and we communicate what's going on with the process. So this allows us to go through that process pretty seamlessly. So you can see that's how the camera kind of sets up in a studio. So this video is on the homepage of our website. So let's talk a little bit about cost and a little bit about how the system works. So let me see, is that a notification of question? Okay. Sorry, somebody else came in late. I'm just letting them in. Okay, so for system pricing, there are two iterations of the software. Once we go through the first year fee, which we'll talk about now in a second, but at the end of year one, the Essentials package, which is either two Kinect cameras or a single Orbeck camera, it allows you to do stroke analysis, single-sided mocap. It allows you to do bilateral non-simultaneous capture if you're using a Kinect camera, bike measurements reports, webcam integration, and plus integration. So that is, most of the people that use that are using single camera solutions. It's $120 a month. In the Essentials package in year one, it's $3,000 for that first year, or $300 a month, depending on how you want to do that. In the Pro package, this is designed really around the Femto Mega cameras. You get the bilateral simultaneous motion capture. You've got the bike finder integration, which you don't have on the Essentials package. Anybody who uses our online web tools, which there are tens of thousands of people every month using that, they'll get targeted for an ad for you as, hey, having Velogic technology in their area. The 3D Aero software, or virtual wind tunnel software, that'll launch towards the end of this year, and we're currently working on integrated GBMI's pressure mapping into the software itself. So in the future, when you hit record, you can get aero data, you can get all the kinematics information, you can get any AND plus information and saddle pressure mapping all integrated in a single system. For that system, it's $4,500 for year one if you do a single payment, or $450 a month over 12 months. In terms of, hardware and all of those kind of things, some of that's here in our facts. There's a purchasing FAQ that we have here. It lays out all the different types of cameras you need, what sort of equipment you need, and we'll send you an email with some of this information for attending the webinar. So you'll be able to see all of that. So there's a tremendous amount of resources on the website for being able to see how the system works, being able to see, what the hardware requirements are, and, what pieces of the puzzle you need. In general, if you're going to use two of the Femto Mega cameras, what you will need to have in terms of technology is, like we said, it's a powerful kind of a gaming computer. You need a little bit of network equipment, so we use a network adapter where we plug the cameras into that. And if you're using two cameras, we use a little sync box to do that. But we talk you through all of that. That's a part of the process in terms of getting you set up and getting you up and running. So that kind of concludes the presentation component of what the technology is, how it works, and I would like to answer any questions anybody might have. So I'll open it up to you to ask questions. You can do that by hitting the Q&A button. And okay, Tommy, what are the dimensions of the space required for a two-camera system? So ideally speaking, 7 foot is the distance from the bike for a two-camera system. 8 feet works even better than that, because it means you don't have to adjust your camera height if you're going between a size cycle and a normal bike, because obviously a size cycle is taller than a normal bike. All of our cameras are mounted on sliders, which means they can be moved up and down to change the height for tall or small riders. So that's the dimensions for that. Is there a free fit prep for clients that explains what the process entails? They're likely to learn from a fit. So when we book a fit, we go through an explanation of what the entire process is. We explain to clients what they need to bring. We explain to them, if they have equipment that they'd like to potentially evaluate, like saddles or handlebars or those sort of things. We encourage them to bring that with them to the fit. If they're using a super bike, which a lot of our clients are, either a road bike or a TT bike, we encourage them to search in their garage for the box of bolts and stuff that they would normally bring. So when we book a person, or when we're explaining to the person about our fit services, we take them through a checklist of all the things they need to know about the process, the cost, how they can, be best prepared. We don't want them coming in wrecked after too much training and so on and so forth. So we take them through all the expectations prior to the fit happening. Could I ask a question of you as a group? I'd be really curious what kind of fit technology you're using now. Are you fitters? Are you coaches? If you'd be willing to share that with me, that'd be great. Neil, I know who you are. You're already using our technology and are a disciple, so to speak. But anybody else in there, I'd love to learn a little bit about. I'd love to learn a little bit about kind of where you're coming from. Do we have any retool users? Seems like we have a lot of retool users that are interested in simultaneous dual-sided capture. A couple of other details. We have a lot of clients that are also not just interested in kind of updating their fit technology, but also potentially interested in education. So there's a website called cyclogiceducation.com, which we have an IBFI certified curriculum. And what that means is that there's about 25 hours of online education prior to coming to the course. So that is that prior education basically gets you to a fit course. We're ready to do very little on-screen presentation work, and most of what we do in that course is going to be more oriented around practical and applying some of what you already know and building on that. So most of the fit process is well outlined and well kind of taught prior to you coming here, so as we can really maximize the time. Thomas, Velogic user, fantastic. Thank you. We appreciate you being a customer. Anybody else willing to volunteer kind of what their background is or what they're using currently? So from an education standpoint, there are 3 levels of education. November is the next set of classes. We'll run some more classes in the new year. You can see that, on the Cyclogic Education site. So Kenneth, available in other languages. The languages that it's currently available in are English, but we can with some help from you, load in different languages. We do have a lot of European and Asian customers, and if you drop me your email, assuming that's Belgian, Kenneth, potentially, I can show you how you can switch around languages and do some of that stuff. The database includes mainly road. TT is problematic in terms of finding fit solutions. Most companies have very proprietary things you have to do for TT. Gravel is in there, mountain is in there. In terms of PC requirements, the PC requirements are higher than the current motion metric software, so it does require a more powerful computer. And if I can get an email address off you, I will send you a link with all those details. Fit databases, Neil, to answer your question, Fit database is updated, as often as our users tell us, hey, what about, Cube, or well, Cube's already in there. What about, certain brands? So most everything that's commonly used is there. Basically, about 72 hours after a request for something being in the database, we can put it in there. There is a function where you can put in XY coordinates and navigate to a solution without it being in the database. Tommy, thank you for sharing. Currently using retool fitting for 10 years. That's awesome. If any of you are interested in more personal one-on-one and talking about your fit space or talking about, how this technology compares to retool, or you want more details on that, I'm happy to set up, one-on-one stuff if you're more interested in that. Lucas from Malaysia went to Taiwan, learned fitting from Type A fitter, more like a manual fitting without equipment, Canovio. Yep, I've used Canovia, I've used Dartfish, I've used a lot of those platforms. What's really nice about this is that you get all the data. Once you learn how to place the markers on the landmarks, you know, the system does all the work for you. Once you document the bike, then you're able to find solutions straight away. And we're very aggressive about keeping that fit database as up to date as possible. So we work very hard to keep you guys happy. Mr. Keener, thank you very much. Appreciate you stopping by. Folks, any other questions that I can answer? Anything anybody else is interested in learning or knowing? Well, what I would like to do is I'll wait just a couple of minutes or so to make sure there are no more questions. I appreciate everybody investing time in coming to this webinar. Happy to answer any other questions. A lot of information on our website if you're interested. If you have education questions, tool questions, we also distribute all the purely custom equipment and other things. Happy to be a resource for you to help grow your fit business or answer questions. I don't see any more questions coming through, so I'm going to end the presentation. Again, thank you very much, everybody, for your time. And look, oh, hang on, we got one more. URL for the education website is, I'll show you now. It's just cyclogiceducation.com. And so just Cyclogic with education at the end. And that'll bring you to, here's the website for that. So you've got your course dates on there, your curriculum's built out here. You can see there is a level 3 as well now, so that information is also in there. And you know, the online component is a lot of information in a good, positive way. So next education is in November, and we'd love to host you guys for that if anybody's interested. Thank you very much, everybody. I will sign off, and if you want to reach me, my email address is Paraic, that's P-A-R-A-I-C, at velogicfit.com. I'll put that into the chat window here. And again, appreciate you all for attending, and we will send you some information soon. You can direct any questions directly to me there. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate everybody's time. Signing off.